Honorable leaders, distinguished guests, honorable guests in this meeting room, as well as our friends attending this event online, good afternoon. I'm very glad to welcome all of you to attend offline or online the 26th Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum. Firstly, I would like to introduce the distinguished speakers at today's event. Firstly, I will introduce our online speakers. I would like to ask our staff to introduce the online guests. Firstly, we have President of amfori, Madam Linda Kromjong. Welcome. We also have a speaker from Action Holdings BV, Director Import Quality and Sustainability Manager, Madam Jeanette. Welcome. We also have a speaker from Hong Kong, Mr. Du Yonghai. Du Yonghai is going to join us very soon. He's the general manager of the Green Living and Innovative Division of Hong Kong PC. We also have distinguished speakers attending this event offline. First, Mr. Yuchun, Director General Office, Department of Industrial Policies, Laws and Regulation, MIIT. Mr. Zhao, Executive VP at China Association of Circular Economy. We also have Mr. He Yuping, partner, Broad and Bright Law Firm. We also have our distinguished speaker from Jingdong Logistics, General Manager of International Logistics Strategy and a large account department of Jingdong Logistics, Mr. Stephen. We also have a director of the PR department on the global key accounts of CHINT Global, Dr. Eddie Gu. Mr. Hu Kehua, Director of Sustainability Stewardship Program of CN Tech, is on the way coming to this meeting room. And also we have Mr. Hu Kehua, Director. We would like to express our sincere welcome to all of our distinguished guests today attending the event, both offline and online. Welcome. I would also like to take this opportunity to express our sincere welcome and give you an introduction of the conference room today to our offline and online guests. In our meeting room, you can see here we have a zero carbon stage. If you look at here, overhead, we have natural lighting for this stage. And this stage I'm standing on uses the recycled board. And secondly, in our meeting room, we also set up an atmosphere with a natural environment. In this environment, we can see green plants and trees. Because it's rather hot these days in Beijing, some of those plants might wither a little bit. Still, they are live plants we decorate this meeting room with. Thirdly, you can find that this meeting room is very artistic because this exhibition hall is also a major venue for sustainable art exhibition. So you are all welcomed to pay visit to the exhibition hosted here. And last but not least, outside this meeting room, there is a shopping mall. There is a strong business atmosphere here. This atmosphere is created by businesses. So in such an environment, we are able to discuss this very important topic today, empowering low carbon supply chain transformation opportunities brought by best practices. I believe this meeting venue is really in line with the theme of our event. We know that climate change is a very important topic faced by the international community. Not long ago, the United Nations released the Global Sustainability Report 2020, said that at present we are in the critical moment of climate crisis. In different regions and in different countries, they have come up with their own emission reduction goals from 2010 to 2030. Carbon emission will further increase by 14%. In 2030, if we maintain the temperature increase by 1.5 Celsius degree, we need to reduce 43% of the emissions. So we have a big gap. For such a big gap, or to put another way, to cope with the climate challenge of mankind, all countries, all organizations, and including businesses need to work together. This is exactly why we put together this event today. In this process, the low carbon supply chain development and management is of special importance. The Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum this year is the 26th. This event is being held for 30 years. China Sustainability Tribune and our partner amfori have been dedicated to promoting cooperation in the sector of supply chain. Over the past years, we have been focusing on supply chain. Especially over the past few years, we focus more on coping with climate change by developing low carbon supply chain. Today, we are very honored to invite a large number of distinguished guests to discuss the topic of empowering low carbon supply chains. Today, firstly, I would like to invite our distinguished guest from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, Director General Office of the Department of Industrial Policies, Laws and Regulations, Mr. Yuchun, who will give us an opening speech. Please. Honorable guests, dear friends, good afternoon. I'm very grateful for China Sustainability Tribune and amfori for giving us this great opportunity to discuss the issue of low carbon and green supply chain. I'm very glad to attend the 26th Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum. Today, delegates of businesses, experts and scholars, representatives of international organizations gathered together to discuss the topic of empowering low carbon supply chains. We respond to the needs of low carbon supply chain development. This is very significant. China has been implementing new development concepts. We focus on low carbon development pathway. President Xi Jinping emphasized that we need to give top priority to ecological civilization and achieving low carbon development. We need to promote low carbon and green transition. In recent years, China has formulated a number of major documents, including the State Council's guiding opinions, are accelerating the establishment and improvement of a green, low carbon, and circular development economic system, and a number of other major documents as well. We focus on developing low carbon supply chain. We promote the sustainable development of a supply chain. The MIIT has also been dedicated to promoting the green and low carbon transition of the industrial sector. We have issued a series of policies such as the Industrial Green Development Plan 2016 to 2020, the 14th Five-Year Plan for Industrial Green Development, and so on and so forth, to provide support and guidance for the construction of green supply chains for enterprises. They also promote the coordinated development of green manufacturing and green supply chain. We have formulated a number of green industrial parks, green supply chain enterprises, and a number of other best practices of green supply chain. We have promoted the circular utilization of industrial resources. We have achieved positive results. My department has also been dedicated to promoting and supporting the CSR of supply chain companies. We have been guiding the China electrification society to formulate the electronic information CSR management system. We've also encouraged the guidelines on sustainable development and the social responsibility summit of China's electronic information industry. We believe that the green development of a supply chain is very critical to the sustainability. The Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum is a very important professional and practical platform. So far, it's been held for 26 such events. It has been paying attention to the healthy development of supply chain of businesses. We hope that we can all share opportunities and the perspectives on building green supply chain, and we can discuss with each other the opportunities of a high quality development of enterprises. We can make joint efforts to achieve our development pathway of green and low carbon and sustainable development. In the end, I wish our forum a full success. Thank you. Thank you, Director Xu, very much. Mr. Xu introduced the efforts made by MIIT to promote green supply chain related policies and actions as well. Now I'd like to give the floor to the speaker from one of the organizers of this event, President of amfori, Madam Kromjong, please.
Thank you very much. Ni hao, good afternoon and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And a special welcome to Mr. Xi from MIIT. And thanks a lot for Mr. Yu, our long-term partner, who co-hosts our event today. Warm greetings from Brussels to all of you, and it's my pleasure to virtually participate in this important forum. And today's theme is Empower Low Carbon Supply Chain Transformation Opportunities brought by best practices. We know that the world is facing different challenges in 2022. Global warming, soaring prices of food and energy, inflation caused by the supply chain disruptions, and war has all created negative impact on UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our planet has already warmed by around 1.2 degrees. The consequences have been devastating. In 2020, climate shocks forced 30 million people to flee their homes, 3 times more than those displaced by war and violence. And despite all the challenges we see, there is an increasing trend of national level legislation to achieve low carbon supply chains amid the recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. Due diligence is no longer a nice to have, but a must do. All major emitting economies must do much more and much faster to change the math and reduce the suffering. In the EU, the Green Deal roadmap has been planned to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. And both Norway and Germany rolled out a transparency and supply chain due diligence law this year or next year. And these new legislation not only cover local businesses, but also their business partners and supply chains globally. The EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive goes a step further by taking a value chain approach, meaning both up and down the chain and moving beyond production. We also see and just heard that China has a clear roadmap to achieve carbon peak by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2050. It also published the first group standards. ESG disclosure guidance was released earlier this year for business to disclose their social, environmental, and governance performance voluntarily. China also initiated the Global Development Initiative this year to work with stakeholders towards 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And what's common about all these laws? Even if at varying degrees, they all use international responsible business conduct standards, such as the UN Guiding Principle on Business Human Rights, the OECD M&E guidelines, the ILO Core Labor Standards, and the ILO M&E Declaration. And I'm very happy to see both EU and China have committed to addressing environmental issues and achieving greener and more resilient supply chains together. I'm so proud to say that amfori, as the leading global business association with over 2,500 members, is dedicated to collaborating with our partners to support members' needs. Happy to have action here with us towards a low carbon supply chain globally. In 2021, we decided to take amfori Business Environmental Performance Initiative, BEPI in short, to the next level and started redesigning it to ensure it will be fit for future. We rolled out BEPI 2.0 pilot program in China and Bangladesh with over 40 business partners participating. And through amfori BEPI, we support our members to map their supply chain and work as a one-stop shop to work on environmental conditions and improve those. And it also includes a carbon calculator assessing the emissions linked to energy use on site. BEPI to date is used by 912 members and over 1,500 producers across 15 industries. And key industries include clothing and footwear, household furniture, and toys and accessories. And we strengthen our partnership with key organizations such as the My Climate Foundation for the provision of emission factors in greenhouse gas emission, at business partners, and with ZDHC for better managing the chemical audit. In China, many business partners have attended amfori's capacity building programs to equip themselves with the key knowledge, including understanding environmental regulatory compliance and getting started with amfori BEPI and the environmental management system. The current crisis is an opportunity for a profound and systemic shift to a more sustainable economy that works for both people and planet. And we must seize this opportunity to move and forward together. China and Europe should continue exerting positive influence and leading the world to a more sustainable and green recovery and development. And together we can do that. I hope today's forum will inspire you all, and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Linda, for your speech and introduced to us about the development trend of the low carbon supply chain, especially on some regional updates on low carbon legislations. I believe that these laws and legislations are not only impacting local enterprises, but more importantly, they are impacting global partners as well as the supply chain. Madam Linda also introduced to us about amfori and its environmental related tools, the BEPI. By adopting a BEPI, they can empower their partners and the low carbon supply chain management. Thank you again, Madam Linda. Just now, our two previous speakers gave us wonderful welcoming speeches. And now let's move on to keynote speeches. First of all, we are very happy to have with us Mr. Zhao Kai, Executive Vice President of China Association of Circular Economy. The topic is circular economy development and carbon reduction in China. The floor is yours, Mr. Zhao Kai. Thank you very much for the invitation from Mr. Yu. I'm very glad to attend this forum. Just now, Mr. Yu has mentioned that this venue is very special. And I have taken a look at this venue, and I felt that it has shown the philosophy of a circular economy. I believe that the core of a circular economy is the recycling and high efficient utilization of resources. So I'm very happy to be on the podium and to share with you on the topic of circular economy and carbon reduction. I work as the Vice President of the China Association of Circular Economy, and has been doing relevant work. Due to the limit of time, I will choose some of the highlights from my slides to share with you. So talking about circular economy, in 2009, the Circular Economy Promotion Law has given us very accurate and specific definition of the principle of the concept is reduce, reuse, and recycle. These are 3R principles. And after its promulgation in 2009, it has been more than 10 years. As to the promotion of circular economy, I believe that it is of great significance. I believe that many of the guests here are experts in this field. About the promotion of circular economy, Although it has the keyword of promotion in its name, I believe that it has boosted the work of circular economy development to a very high level. I can disclose with you that recently this law, we have been doing a preliminary study as to the revision of this law. It is led by NDRC, and also our association has undertaken the work of revising this law. Some preliminary study results. Now we are communicating to relevant government departments. Talking about circular economy, as to the background of this concept, I'm afraid that you can't see clearly of my slides. I'm sorry, but this is a timeline. There are two very important milestones. You can see 2004 and 2005. This is when circular economy encountered its first development of a spring in China. So the circular economy has been boosted to a national level. And that was for the first time that at the national level, a work conference on circular economy was held, and the relevant policies were worked out. And the second springtime for circular economy, as you can see here, is around 2021. Around 2021, you can see a series of policies launched at around this point of time. So that was the second springtime for the development of circular economy. And that was due to the dual carbon goals proposed by President Xi. So this has further boosted the concept of a circular economy to an even higher level. This is also one of the most important channels to realize the goals of dual carbon. This is about these achievements during the 13th five-year plan period in terms of developing a circular economy. I think you can see several figures here, but what I want to draw your attention to is at the end of 13th five-year development period. In the past, that was a efficient replenishment, and now it is a very important guarantee or channel for development. So you can see the work of circular economy at the end of the 13th five-year plan period. It has already become a very important content at national government level. As to the key work during the 14th five-year plan period, as you can see that from the national level in terms of top-level design and circular economy is very important. If you look back, 12th, 11th five-year plan period, it was never boosted to a national level. However, at the end of 13th five-year plan period and the 14th five-year development period, there was a special program or plan for developing circular economy. You can see there are several works. One is to build an industrial system and also to improve the waste material recycling system and the resource recycling system and deepen the development of agricultural circular economy. And under these three major tasks, there are a lot more focuses. For example, targeting the industry system. You can see also how to develop the industrial park and about the bulk solid waste and also about eco-design. There are specific requirements as to the waste or recycled materials and resources, how to build a recycling system, and how to improve the level of processing and the utilization of renewable resources, and also to standardize the development of a second-hand commodity market. So all these works are in the plan and have been very well laid out. And in this plan, there are 5 major projects and 6 big action plans. I will not go into details because in this due process at the national government level, there were these specific policies such as the urban waste material recycling system construction project, and how to accelerate the construction project. And as to the a demonstration project of comprehensive utilization of bulk solid waste, and also the construction waste recycling demonstration project. Also, as to a single item, the wasted textile products, there's also a specific project. And Mr. Hu later will give us a speech from the perspective of the textile industry, and also packaging, car industry. There are all relevant policies and plans from the national level. So this is a guideline for the coming 5 years as to the key tasks of a circular economy. So you can see from these requirements. Talking about carbon reduction, I have mentioned that this is the second springtime for developing circular economy. It is because of the adoption of the double dual carbon targets. And you can see as to this 1+2 system, this one refers to accelerate the development of a circular economy has been clearly laid out in the relevant documents. It has shown the importance of developing circular economy. And secondly, is a 2030 carbon dioxide emission peak. Circular economy has been made one of the most important 10 actions to use circular economy to help carbon dioxide emission peaking. It has 4 aspects. One is for the industrial park, and second for bulk solid waste. For example, there are 2 points added here. One is about construction waste, and second to include the agricultural waste like straw. In the past, it really focused on industrial waste, but this time, construction waste and agricultural waste are included. It has shown the importance attached by the national government, as well as renewable resources. Some relevant requirements have been proposed, as well as the reduction and classification of living waste. So these are the 4 major aspects to help carbon reduction. As how to reduce carbon, I have this following sharing. You can see there is a number as to 20 to 25% of contribution. This is a pretty conservative estimation. That is a 30% contribution. As to the main areas, including replacement of materials and reprocessing, short process, long process, replacement of energy, and improvement of energy efficiency, recycling of products, etc. But based on these principles, this is how we understand the main directions of circular economy and carbon reduction. As you can see, we have laid out the 16 main aspects. Of course, there may be more to the 16, including bulk solid waste and biomass to replace fossil fuel and recycling of residue heat, and also remanufacturing. Remanufacturing, this work in China started pretty late. However, this work is very important. It is pretty mature in countries outside China. And for the manufacturing, China's government will have relevant policies to promote in auto industry, in auto parts industry, or including this medical devices that we use and mobile phones we use. So all this we will looking at how to further regulate the market. We're talking because of the limit of time. Let me give you a small sum up as to the meaning of developing circular economy. It is the following aspects. So one is a fundamental transformation of economic development. It is also related to the resource security of China, and also it has to do with environmental protection and reducing pollution. And it is also in line with global development. It is how we address climate change. It is one of the most important means to realize greener, more sustainable development. So circular economy is a common sense around the world. It is also how we promote green development. It is one of the most important channel and vehicles. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Executive Vice President Mr. Zhao, for your elaboration on circular economy. You mentioned the development situation of circular economy as well as the history and its value. Especially you talked about it can have a 30% contribution to carbon reduction. So we have a great expectation for circular economy.
In particular, has enabled me to have a new understanding of a circular economy. I personally feel that we need to look at the whole life cycle from the perspective of a business when we talk about the circular economy. But in terms of a partnership, it involves the collaboration along the supply chain. The circular economy requires the collaboration of a supply chain. It also requires a very powerful partnership to achieve a circular economy. Thank you very much. Your speech is very inspiring, Mr. Zhao. Now, I would like to introduce our next speaker. I believe this topic is of great concern to all of us nowadays. In the process of economic development, in the process of circulation, we pay a lot of attention to the topic of taxation. As low carbon is being promoted, we also pay a lot of attention to carbon tariff, especially the policy changes of the European Union in recent period of time. So now that I took the floor to He Yuping, partner of a Broad and Bright law firm, the topic is the EU carbon tariff and coping strategies for Chinese enterprises. The floor is yours, Mr. He. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So here, I would like to thank the forum for inviting me to this great event. This is a great opportunity for me to share my opinions. Before I start, I would like to use 1 or 2 minutes to give you a brief introduction of my own background. In this way, it can facilitate your understanding of the topic. My personal positioning is that I'm a professional lawyer in the field of energy. In recent years, I focused a lot on the energy sector. In around 2000 and 2001, at that time, I still worked at PetroChina Group. We implemented the going abroad strategy of the Chinese government. In different parts of the world, we conducted M&As of oil assets. And later, I left PetroChina and joined a private firm. And in 2010, I joined my current employer. In 2010, my positioning changed clearly. That is because in 2009, the Chinese government released this renewable resource law. That is to say, after 2009, we can see that China has been increasingly focusing on renewable energy resources. Since then, I have been participating in projects related to biomass, wind power, solar power, and so on and so forth. Over the past 12 years, I can see very clearly that in China and outside China, more and more focus has been paid to renewable energy related projects. In particular, in recent years, more and more people have started paying attention to carbon-related topics because right now in China, ETS market is also developing at a very critical moment. In fact, the EU, from a very early on, has started its ETS system development. ETS is the emission trading system. This system from 2005 has started. So now I will officially start my presentation today. The background of carbon tariff in the European Union. The background. So firstly, let's look at the name. We call it a CBAM. It's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. If we translate it directly into Chinese, it is called the 碳边境调节机制. However, between the EU and other countries in the world, it is serves as a model of readjustment. We can see that the starting point was in 2016 when the European Union joined the Paris Agreement. It promised to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. And then in 2019, the European Commission released the European Green Deal. And then in 2021, the European Commission put forward the Fit for 55. The greenhouse gas emission will be reduced by 55% over 1990. As a result, the legislative proposal on CBAM was put forward. This is the process of legislation. So we can see that over the past 2 to 3 years, we were all impacted seriously by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, in the European countries, the legislation process on CBAM has been very fast. In July 2021, the proposal on CBAM was adopted, and then in March 2022, the Council reached agreement on CBAM. And then in 2022, on June 22nd of this year, the European Parliament voted for this legislative draft. As a result, the first reading by the European Parliament was finished. So here is a brief introduction of the European Commission, European Council, and the European Parliament. What are the relationships of these 3 organizations? Actually, the European Commission, if we regard the entire Europe as a sovereign state, the European Commission is just like the state council of this sovereign state. It's the execution organ. It's responsible for drafting the legislation and the submission. If it is approved, it's responsible for the execution. It serves as the state council. But the European Council and the European Parliament, they are just like the Senate and the House of Representatives. The European Council represents all the delegates of the European countries in the consultation process. The European Parliament is that they are directly elected by the citizens of the European Union. So right now, there are around 750 members of the European Parliament. So the execution body drafts this law and then submits it to the legislators for the approval process. So the first reading has been finished so far, and for the next stage, the consultations will start. If you look at this slide, you can see trilogues. So it means that this is a 3-party dialogue in order to come up with the final EU law. Why should the European Union launch this CBAM? The origin can be found on this slide. Here you can see this is the cost of the product. Cost of the product. If 2 countries' costs of production are the same, they are all embodied by this gray color. However, because some of these products have to pay carbon tariff, this green part will be added to the price. Some people, just like Bill Gates, call this green part as a green bargaining because you need to pay this extra. This is called the green premium. And some organizations call this as a green inflation. But in my opinion, for some specific products, it is a green premium. However, from the perspective of the entire market, it leads to the green inflation. Well, because there's a green premium in the product price, the European companies think that they need to pay this green premium. As a result, the price of their products is relatively more expensive. In countries where there are no such requirements, the products prices are relatively lower compared with the price of the EU companies, and they gain market competitiveness. This is unfair. That is why EU call this phenomenon as carbon leakage. On this slide, it is also very clear that with carbon leakage and without CBAM mechanism, it's just like the picture on the left-hand side. The price of the product will need to include carbon cost. While on the right-hand side, we can see that in some countries, without this part of a carbon cost, their product price is lower. The price is more competitive. But on the right-hand side, if we add a CBAM charge, these two columns will be equal to each other. In this case, the so-called fairness can be achieved. Eventually, CBAM will make it possible for the product of European Union companies price and with the price of non-EU companies. What are the industries sector in this process? At the European Commission level, when the draft was proposed, only 5 sectors are involved, including steel, aluminum, cement, fertilizer, and electricity. And then when this draft was submitted to the European Parliament, the House of Representatives, the so-called House of Representatives, revision was proposed. The revision says that new sectors should be included. Those new sectors include organic chemicals, plastics, hydrogen, and ammonium. The organic chemicals include rubber and oil products, as well as tires made from rubber, other oil refinery products such as textile. The goal is that before 2030, the product range should be expanded to all the industries covered by the EU ETS. So this point is of special attention to all of us. The industries have expanded from 5 to 9, and there is a plan to further expand the range in the next stage. The current 9 types of products, downstream products, will also be covered by CBAM. Greenhouse gases and emission scope. I believe that you might have encountered some the EU legal documents. You will find that greenhouse gases include 7 types of gases. However, in this draft of European Commission, there is an annex. In the annex, there is one specific column in which the different types of greenhouse gases are included. So far, 3 types of GHGs are listed, including CO2, N2O, and PFCs. At the European Parliament, when review was made, the scope of GHGs is consistent with the draft of the European Commission. As to the emission volume process, the Parliament thought the original draft was not stringent enough. According to it, indirect emission should also be included. The so-called direct emission means that, for example, when we develop a steel, in the process of developing the steel, the carbon emission in the process of producing the steel should be covered by extra cost. However, the indirect emission should also be included. In the process of making the steel, there is a large amount of electricity used. The electricity is generated by power plant. When power plant generates this electricity, there is also emission. For this part of emission, carbon tariff will also be levied. So this is a new change we need to pay attention to. The transition period and the implementation date. At present, at the European Commission's level, the initial draft said the transition would last for 3 years, from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025. In this period of time, importers need to fulfill their reporting obligation. Every quarter, they need to submit a report stating how much emissions included in their products imported. But according to the revision of the European Parliament, the transition was extended from 2023 to December 31st, 2026.
And at present, it is still difficult to say whether in the future there will be further adjustments or amendments. But a message is sent that is from the perspective of the EU in terms of implementation, it is not as fast as they expected. Let's talk about the obligations to purchase the certificate and the deduction. The EU importers need to purchase CBAM certificates from the competent authorities of member states and submit certificates corresponding to the carbon emissions of their imported goods on May 31st every year. The price of the CBAM certificate, it is linked to the price of carbon emission allowances under EU ETS. If you pay attention to this, you should have noticed that these prices are extremely high, because the carbon taxation system started from 2005, and there were 4 periods. And during the first and second phase, the price was pretty low. And now the price, as far as I know, at the end of June, it is about 90 euros per ton. That is a pretty expensive price, and it is highly likely that the price will continue to go up. As to the deduction is also very important. The carbon cost that the exporters has paid for the goods in the country of origin can be offset against the corresponding number of CBAM certificates. But there are 2 preconditions I have to draw your attention to. Well, it only deducts the cash part that you have already paid. So no matter how complicated it does not calculate the repetition part. And for example, in one country, if you do the calculation, you only pay 100 euro of cash for carbon cost. But when you purchase a CBAM certificate, it can only be deducted by 100 euro. It will not consider the percentage or other volume. It will only consider the cash that you pay, and the cash part can be deducted. As to the penalties, the European Parliament amendment, for the first time, the penalties for breaking rules were clarified. Before May 31st of each year, if the CBAM authority fails to submit a number of CBAM certificates corresponding to the emission from the imported goods in the previous year or submit false information, the fine shall be 3 times the average price of the CBAM certificate in the previous year. So this is a 300% of penalties. So for this unsettled part, you also need to pay the carbon tariff. Okay, the third part of my presentation is about how to respond to these policies. The possible risks is possible expansion of product coverage. Second is it's possible to expand the scope of carbon emissions calculated, including both direct and indirect. It is still not very clear at the moment. Third is the carbon tariff system may be formally implemented ahead of schedule. Now the European Parliament wants to give 4 years of a transition period, but it does not exclude the possibility that maybe the Parliament believes the condition is right, then the implementation will be moved ahead of schedule. Fourth is punishment measures are clearly set. So all these risks are what we need to pay attention to. As to the strategies, first, we need to pay close attention to the progress of EU carbon tariff legislation. Second, actively introduce emission reduction processes. Third is to retain relevant data and documents, because when you submit these documents, you need these data and documents, including establishing the corporate level MRV, measurement, reporting, and verification system. And the due diligence and prior agreement. Because normally the Chinese companies, when they sell these products, there is a European importer cooperating with us. So we need to see whether this importer has achieved the license or certificate. Also, when exporting products to the EU, this carbon submit and relevant carbon needs to be set in prior agreement. And also the fifth is manufacturer registration. If an exporter has registered as a manufacturer, it can save a lot of time and improve competitiveness. And I want to draw your attention that in June this year, several weeks ago, our country has had this data export measurement, and it will be implemented from September the 1st this year. So that means we have this strong urge to prepare this data and documents to submit it to the relevant authorities of the EU. However, in China, it's very strict control. If this condition applies, you have to, because the time is very short, so you need to think about this issue and how to comply with both the laws and the submitting procedure. Also, I want to say that the Chinese enterprises should not worry too much because there are 3 to 4 years of transition period. But after all, you need to pay extreme attention to the development because black swan and gray rhino are the buzzwords in the previous 2 years. So for these potential risks that you might encounter, I believe that for the EU carbon tariff legislation, it is obviously a great rhinoceros. So for Chinese companies for the coming 3 to 4 years, you have to be fully prepared to respond if the gray rhino comes at you. Okay, then that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Lawyer He, for the CBAM updates that we pay a lot of attention to recently. You have given us very clear introduction in the process of legislation and possible strategies for Chinese companies to face up to these updates. Then now let's give the floor to an online speech. Let's invite Director Import and Quality and Sustainability Manager, Ms. Jeanette Sama from Action Holding. She will be talking to us about the low carbon supply chain transformation of Action. Let's welcome.
Thank you. 你好，我叫 Jeanette Paulusma, and I'm responsible for the direct import, quality and sustainability at Action. I'm very grateful to be invited to be one of the speakers on this event. Today I will talk to you about the sustainability journey of Action, the growth of Action, the Action Sustainability Program, which is divided in 4 pillars: people, planet, product, and partnership. The first store of Action opened in Enkhuizen, the Netherlands, almost 30 years ago. We are the fastest growing non-food discounter in Europe, and we are offering 12 million customers an ever-changing variety of 6,000 products in 2,000 stores in Europe every week. Another 8 million customers visit action.com every week. The essence of Action is small prices, big smiles, and feeling good. We have 14 categories, like, for example, decoration, household, laundry and cleaning, linen, toys and entertainment. Many customers ask us why our prices are so low. That's because we have no fixed assortment. We have a very efficient supply chain, no high street locations, standardized store processes, low marketing, low overhead costs. We have a very simple business model, and we buy in huge volumes. Our brand promises surprisingly more for less. 6,000 products in 14 categories, always a surprising assortment, every day the lowest price, weekly promotions, it's easy shopping at Action, and social responsibility. And the most important for today, we would like to make sustainability accessible for all customers. Action is one of the fastest growing retailers worldwide. According to the Deloitte Global Powers of Retailing 2022 report, we are on number 12 in the list. And for example, also one of the speakers, gday.com, is on number 6 in the same list. Here you can see an overview of Action's growth. If we take 2012 as an example, on the left side, Action had 321 stores in 4 countries and 1 distribution center. If we then step to today, on the right side, you can see that we have over 2,000 stores. Action is in 10 countries in Europe, and we have 11 distribution centers. We have over 68,000 employees and 7 billion net sales. We still see that there's a big demand for discount, which also gives a good faith in future, and our formula works in all countries. Exponential increase in number of companies subjected to mandatory due diligence obligations in Europe. We made a small overview of all kinds of legislations in the countries in Europe, as there is no one unified legislation. For example, the German Supply Chain Act, the Norwegian Transparency Act, the Dutch Bill on Responsible and Sustainable International Business. Then there is the EU Conflict in Minerals regulation, the French Duty of Care. So yeah, sometimes it's quite challenging for Action being in so many European countries and trying to do everything right. We follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for our Action Sustainability Program, in short ASP. Action's growth comes with the responsibility that Action accepts and embraces. We want to make sure that sustainable products are accessible for every customer. This cannot happen overnight, of course, but Action is committed to this journey and to achieve its ambitions. When Action can make even small changes, its size amplifies the impact of its actions. So ultimately, a big difference is made. We are focusing on 4 pillars: product, planet, people, and partnership. If we look at the pillar people, we are very proud to have an international workforce of 124 nationalities in over 68,000 employees. Of these employees, 72% is female. Our CEO, Hajir Haji, is a female, and she works over 25 years at Action. She started working in the stores, and now she is promoted to be our CEO at Action, and we are very, very proud of that. The next pillar is planet. We have quite some goals on this pillar. We would like to reduce emissions from our own operations by 50% by 2030. The energy usage in stores should be renewable by the end of 2022. We want to have zero gas in the stores by end of 2024 and significantly reduce the CO2 emissions of our outbound transport. Therefore, we make quite some steps to achieve this. For example, we have placed solar panels on our largest DC in the Netherlands, and they will deliver 85% of its energy needs in the future. Also, we replace all the lighting in the stores with energy-efficient LED lights. And there's a pilot with electric trucks and alternative fuels, and our trucks are all double-deckers, as you can see on the photo, so they can carry more load in one delivery. Climate, of course, is also linked to the planet. We are working on the 3 scopes of the assessment, which means that scope 1 is measuring what the emissions are from the company facilities and company vehicles, for example. In scope 2, we measure the purchased energy, so for heating and cooling for own use. And now we are working on scope 3, which has to do with transportation, distribution, business travels from our colleagues, and end-of-life treatment of sold products, for example. We have completed the baseline assessment we will complete the baseline assessment of scope 3 CO2 footprint in 2023. And also we will set a roadmap for reduction and align with SBTi of scope 3 emissions by 2023. If we look at the third pillar, product, there are quite some plans. We have circularity plans for all categories by year end 2022, so this year, 100% sustainable timber and cotton by 2024, 100% recyclable packaging by 2025, and 100% transparency on labor conditions within the supply chain by 2025. If we look at the topic circularity, we strive to minimize our impact through design, manufacturing, raw material use, and recycling. Currently, we are creating circularity baseline assessments and KPIs, and we support categories to achieve category circularity ambitions for this year and coming year. We do this together with Circle Economy, who also support us a lot in this journey. The goal is to improve circularity of 140 products by 2023. Here are some examples of circularity improvements. For example, our action bag for our customers, which is now 100% made of recycled material sourced, which gave us an improvement of plus 50%. Also, our duvet, Four Seasons, is now also been made with 100% recycled filling, which gave the improvement of 20%. And the last example is a bucket with wooden beads, which we buy now with FSC certification, and that provided us an improvement of 43%. If we look at raw material, we are committed to sustainably source 100% of our raw materials. That means 100% sustainable cotton by 2023, cacao by 2023, and 100% sustainable timber by 2024. And we work there also with partnerships with, for example, Fair Trade Foundation and FSC. Packaging, of course, is an essential part of our articles, and we aim to optimize our approach for packaging waste reduction. Our 2025 targets are 100% recyclable packaging for all, 25% primary packaging reduction, and 100% sustainable cardboard or paper in primary packaging. As you can see on the photo, all our carton and plastic coming from the stores is being brought back to our distribution centers for recycling. We work together with the LCA Center to manage our goals and to reach everything. I'm very happy also to know that, for example, in Shanghai, they also have quite some extensive recycling programs. So this is really nice to hear also for us, and we can learn from each other. Here we have examples of some packaging improvements. For example, the ratchet tie-down strap. We changed the packaging, and therefore we have now 46% less weight in the packaging, and that made an improvement of 81% reduction in CO2. With the glass screen protector, the second example, we have currently 61% less weight, which caused 83% reduction in CO2. Action commits to environmental monitoring of producers through amfori BEPI 2.0. We are an amfori member already since 2014. Next to a strong focus on social compliance, we commit to identify and mitigate environmental risks in our supply chain. Environmental risks can have a long-term negative impact on resource availability, biodiversity, climate, and livelihood of local communities. Action is also participant of the amfori BEPI 2.0 pilot task force. And we strive to have 100% of direct import in producers will be assessed on environmental impact in 2023. We will start a pilot in September with 20 to 25 of our producers. September this year. In total, we will assess approximately 500 suppliers in China, India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, covering 12 product categories. The last but not the least pillar is partnership. Action actively supports children via partnerships and programs. For example, we partner together with SOS Children's Villages and sponsor 1,737 children. Also, we partner together with the Johan Cruyff Foundation, the very famous Dutch footballer. Next to that, we support local community initiatives via, for example, donations or local neighborhood involvement, where you can see two small examples below. We work closely with, for example, Li and Fung, a very important partner to Action, also in the BEPI project, and with amfori and BSCI and amfori BEPI. And here you see a small overview of our partnerships. This is really important to Action because we cannot do it alone. Only by working together, learning from each other, we can move forward. But what can you do yourself? Because it's not only Action, of course. Consider, please, how to improve yourself. Engage with others, like, for example, amfori resources, which are freely available to you. Conduct a risk assessment to learn what's most needed for your company. Take sustainability as part of your company value and invest and nominate a person in your company to be responsible for sustainability. Also, use the complementary e-learnings on amfori's website and attend free capacity building workshops, which are easy to find at amforiacademy.amfori.org. Please don't wait for retailers like Action. Take action yourself and keep in mind, only together we can do this. Thank you very much for your attention. Xie.
Thank you, Jeanette, very much. We had a little technical difficulty, but still we are able to understand the 4 P's, the pillars of action. In my understanding, those 4 P's means that action uses a partnership to do good for the people and for the planet. For people and for planet, action produces sustainable products. Thank you very much for sharing with us the practices of action. That is very inspiring. Now I would like to give the floor to VP, General Manager of International Logistics Strategy and the Large Account Department of Jingdong Logistics, Mr. Stephen Lee. He will talk about Jingdong's logistics integrated green supply chain. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yu, very much. I'd also like to thank all the guests today. It's a great pleasure for me to share with you today Jingdong's efforts of being green and environmental protection. I personally am responsible for the international business of Jingdong Logistics, including our overseas warehouses and import and export businesses. My presentation today has two parts. Firstly, I will talk about the overall efforts of Jingdong in carbon neutrality and carbon emission reduction. And then I will talk about what Jingdong Logistics are focusing nowadays. In our opinion, our era today is already the smart carbon era. The so-called smart carbon era means that our digital, our green concepts are combined together. Years ago, these two concepts were separated from each other. From 2000, when we started a carbon neutrality concept and emission reduction efforts, science and technology and the digital technologies have been empowering carbon emission reduction.
JD Logistics has been focused on the overall. What JD Logistics has been focused on digital driven and technology driven and integrated supply chain. So in the era of smart carbon, we have a lot of practices that we can share with you. I believe that you all know that for logistics, there are a lot of movements and physical movements in logistics, including warehousing, including transportation. And a warehouse, you can divide that into a very small movements like loading or packing. Previously, in the industry of logistics or at the early stage of e-commerce, all these movements were not digitalized. Many of the logistics movement was done manually on site. It was based on the experience of the manpower. But recently, with digitalization and the combination of the physical network, now we have more opportunities to digitalize this on-site movement and to improve the efficiency through digital connection. So against this backdrop, for each and every step of carbon emission, we can have very precise control and measurement. This is what we call a smart carbon era. And this is a combination of technology and logistics. And for JD, we have our own concept of the so-called self-circulation and large-scale circulation. As I have mentioned, warehousing, packaging, transportation, all this movement, it involves digitalization, empowerment, and integration. I can give you several examples. For example, now we have many warehouses that we call this Starlight warehouse. Why do we call this Starlight? Because it's a 24/7 operation. You know that each year during the main shopping festival, the warehouse of these e-commerces are operating 24/7. And if you look at these warehouses, you can see the lights on and people working really hard at the warehouses. But in our Starlight warehouse, you cannot see this. What you can see is light out, light off, and all machines, equipment operating automatically. And you can see only a very small light coming from this warehouse. This is an energy-saving warehouse. So through digitalization, automation, the operation of these warehouses can be automated. And for JD Logistics, we have this Asian #1 warehouse. I believe some of you have visited such warehouses. In our Xi'an Asian #1 warehouse, we have already realized this kind of starlight warehouse. And in this logistics park, we have built this PV energy generation equipment. It can operate for during daytime to provide electricity for warehouse, and the residual electricity can be restored for the night time operation of this starlight warehouses. And now we are doing in other places like Suqian and Shanghai and Nanjing. We are building such or upgrading such Asian #1 warehouses so that these warehouses can be the zero carbon warehouses for JD. Apart from the warehouses, I believe that you know transportation is also a process that consumes a lot of carbon. So for JD Logistics, now in more than 50 cities across China, we have tens of thousands of vehicles that have been shifted to new energy vehicles. Now we are making a lot of exploration as to electricity swap and using clean technology. The target is by 2030, 80% of our transportation vehicles can be new energy vehicles. Apart from that, we have also done some work and carbon reduction, emission reduction for logistics. For example, the packaging, if you do not manage very well of these packaging materials, it is highly it can generate a lot of waste. And by changing the materials and improving or increasing the utilization of the packaging material, this can also help reduce carbon emission for this industry. This is the self-circulation that we have been doing. Apart from that, we also do big circulation. Big circulation refers to, first of all, we can integrate upstream and downstream partners to do green and emission reduction. Upstream and downstream, including our suppliers, our packaging producers. Many of the packaging materials were not environmentally friendly. Some of them are highly polluting and can cause waste. Now, for JD's main upstream and downstream vendors, we now have this so-called Qingliu plan. We have a 5-year initiation to invest 1 billion RMB to accelerate the building of green supply chain. Apart from upstream and downstream suppliers, we also have in JD these merchants, both China and international, P&G, Nestle, and they have very good sales on JD platform. As you know, when you shop on JD platform, you would receive a package with 2 to 3 layers of packages, including logistics and the packaging box. So together with the suppliers, we try to reduce the number of materials or packaging as most as possible, so that we do not need to repackage at the warehouse level. This can help us reduce packaging materials, reducing carbon emission, and reducing waste of materials. So apart from vendors at the consumer end, we, in terms of carbon neutrality and emission reduction, we help communicate such philosophy to the consumers. We have this different initiation. Both such activities can help consumers understand our philosophy of a carbon reduction of JD, and to engage them into our activities. We have done these activities for 2 months and attracted more than 1 million people. After talking about the consumers, JD itself, merchants, and upstream and downstream vendors, also in terms of standard setting, JD can play our due role. We have been participating in building the guideline on carbon reduction, and our philosophy has been incorporated into the standards of restricting packaging for the logistics industry. And we have also participated in the logistics park carbon neutrality guidance, and also we launched this environment governance report so that we can make more contribution. Last but not least, I will take 1 to 2 minutes to talk about our international businesses. Many of our guests today know that JD Logistics, we have a lot of domestic business. We have thousands of warehouses in China, but you might not know that we are also doing international businesses. You know that we have a lot of branches overseas, including Europe, in the US, the Middle East, Australia. The business we do overseas, including end-to-end cross-border business, and also includes importing and exporting, shipment by airplane, railway, and car. So this is our end-to-end business. So who are our main customers? And to my left, Mr. Gu from CHINT is also one of our customers. Actually, in terms of the customers we serve are the brands that go overseas. For example, CHINT Global, Xiaomi, hire these big names. They have both B2B and B2C businesses. So they can use our service to ship to their overseas customers. And also we do importing business. Nestle, Macy's. If Chinese people make overseas procurement, the goods can be shipped from overseas and then to the end consumers. This is our global layout of global warehouses. So we do not use a partner warehouse. These are our self-built warehouses overseas. We have 3 warehouses in the US and 10 in Europe. In the Asia Pacific region, we have 19 in 15 cities. Now here you can see the location of these different warehouses. It is as to our operation, it is different with our peers. Our warehouse is more automated and we adopt more technology to build overseas warehouses. I myself is responsible for overseas infrastructure. So for this Asian #1 warehouse, we ship overseas, especially in European countries and America where manpower is expensive. But through technology empowerment, we can help reduce carbon emission, not only in China, but also overseas. I want to say that I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk to you, especially the previous colleagues. I have learned a lot from your presentation in terms of macro policies, and especially the EU carbon tax tariff. This is a very good opportunity to guide us in terms of our outbound importing and exporting business. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Ms. Li, for your sharing. Centering around today's topic, empowering the low-carbon supply chain, you have shown us very good practices. Now let's invite the last speaker of keynote speech, Director of the PR Department and the Global Key Account of CHINT Global, Mr. Eddie Gu, will be talking about the CHINT practice of digital intelligence and carbon neutrality solutions. Thank you, Mr. Yu, for your invitation. Dear leaders, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Eddie Gu from CHINT Global. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share with you on the topic of the carbon reduction of digital intelligence and carbon neutrality. I have learned a lot from previous speakers. Now I will share with you our group as to what kind of innovation and practice we have done. Let me take a few minutes to introduce to you about our group. We were established in 1984. In 2021, in the second we have launched our own solution and to achieve the dual carbon goals. And we have four main bases, and we have very deep cooperation with Tsinghua University. We have 26 research laboratories, and we have won many patents. And among the private companies, we are ranking very high, and we have achieved more than 100 billion RMB of revenue, and we are number one in terms of the 100 CSR companies. And also, we have been awarded in terms of the practices and the sustainability cooperation of Belt and Road countries. Now we have the business of green, smart home appliances, as well as our scientific research platform. For the whole low carbon and green supply chain, first of all, for our group, we have our own green actions. Based on our judgment, the development of green and sustainability, the new era has come, and with the President Xi proposed the target of dual carbon, I think this is a very good opportunity for different countries that have their timeline for carbon neutrality. I believe carbon neutrality has become a consensus globally. For our group, we have made this commitment in the green supply chain. For this philosophy of going green, it will be integrated into R&D, production, and sales, and also to integrate to upstream and downstream vendors to form an effective supply chain.
We have established our own Green Supply Chain Commission. We have established the Green Supply Chain Department. We also work with more than 330 suppliers in the world to establish our supplier management standard. We've also been certified by MIIT's Green Supply Chain certification, and through a third-party audit organization, we've also got certification of the footprint of our own products. This is the first of its kind in China. So our efforts, we reduce the carbon emission of our own products. Meanwhile, for our partners, we provide green low carbon products and solutions as well, including low and high voltage products. Through green manufacturing, we empower the whole industry. We passed the MIIT's Future Factory selection and got the award. Our Internet of Things, our sensor technologies, integrated circuit, and the smart manufacturing and other new technologies have empowered our digital business growth. On the one hand, we are able to reduce the energy consumption of products. On the other hand, we increase the product quality. In this way, we're able to reduce energy consumption. At the same time, we provide our customers with more low carbon products. For our customers, they can also reduce their carbon emission. We have established this green ecology. We have industrial green plus net zero emission factory. We shoulder social responsibility. We have released various functions at the government side. We've also worked with our partners to use digital technologies according to Chinese Academy of Engineering. In 2027, China will achieve carbon peaking. In this process, the biggest CO2 emitter is from the power and the industrial sectors. Therefore, in the power and industrial sectors, in the industrial parks, we've also proposed our own idea of emission reduction. We have proposed the idea of integration development. We've also offered the smart electricity distribution service, and we're able to reduce the energy consumption of the industrial parks. We also have the integrated maintenance services as well. In Green Industrial Park in Anhui and Hubei, we have built a number of industrial parks. And those parks are making progress of carbon peaking steadily. On the basis of the industrial parks, we also have our own green power. We have our green energy business. In 2006, we entered the PV industry. Our development has expanded from a silicon material, pulling rod to other components. We are able to provide comprehensive energy solutions, including PV power stations, energy storage. We believe that in the future, energy will become safer, cleaner, cheaper, and more convenient. Solar energy will make up 50% of the renewable energy. That is why we are also focusing on those new energy projects. Developing high energy efficiency, high turnover PV power station projects. Throughout the world, we have built more than 690 PV stations. The cumulative electricity generation exceeded 8 gigawatts every year. We can reduce CO2 emission by 8 million tons in Europe, in Asia, in other parts of the world. You can see those pictures of the solar power stations we've built. In China, we focus on PV plus model to achieve benefits for the ecology, farmers, and society. In Kubuqi, we have a sunlight complementary projects. It's selected as the Sustainable Soil Improvement Program of UNIDO. In Qinghai, we have a Gonghe sunlight complementary project. Under the solar panels, husbandry business can be carried out. In Zhejiang, Quzhou, Jiangshan, and we also have this solar panel projects. Under the solar projects, we're able to grow plants. In this way, we're able to enhance land utilization rate. We also pay a lot of attention to Zhangjiakou, which is the venue of Beijing Winter Olympics. Zhengtai has also implemented a Bearing Hills Management plus PV project. The fishery and PV complementary project means solar panels are established on the sea, and under the solar panels, the fishery business can be carried out. In terms of BIPV, we have also been implementing a number of projects, just like Jingdong Logistics said earlier. In China and in other countries, we have major cooperation potential in BIPV, in logistics, in warehouses, and in factory building. We can implement the rooftop solar panel projects. This can effectively reduce emission of CO2. Throughout the country, rooftop PV market, more than 30% of this market is owned by us. We have more than 600,000 households implementing those PV panels. Every year, we can reduce CO2 emission by 8 million tons. Zhengtai also works closely with our partners worldwide in more than 100 countries and regions. We have established close partnerships with businesses, including International of Italy and ENGIE of France, Jinyu and Tata, those partners as well as BP and Samsung. So upstream joint efforts, we are implementing our social responsibility. We are making innovations. We have our global CSR system. So far, we have carried out poverty alleviation projects as well as ecological environmental protection projects. We are very grateful. We hope that our carbon neutrality digital solution can play our role to the global efforts of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality. Thank you.
All
right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gu, very much for your sharing. I'm very impressed by the introduction of Mr. Gu that they've established a green supply chain commission specifically within their company, I feel that their green power or low carbon power bases on the understanding of the partnership relations. We can see that there have been a lot of efforts carried out by Zhengtai with its partners. So I'd like to thank all the 5 keynote speakers. Now we will start the next session. We have 4 speakers altogether. 3 of them are from offline. Mr. Gong Keda from CNTAC. We also have Mr. He Hongliang. Also, please join our panel discussion. We have 2 online panelists as well. We have discussed with the chapter the topics of related to policy as well as the supply chain development practices. We discussed the different topics together. So I've seen that our participants here, except Jeanette, who has already delivered a keynote speech just now. Jeanette is from the business. The other 3 panelists are all from industrial organizations which offer services to businesses. You are also a very important participant in green supply chain development. You play a very important role, and I'm interested to listening to your own introductions of your role in the development of the green and low carbon supply chain development. So firstly, I would like to ask this question to Director Hu Kehua. We know that at the CNTAC, you have really been a veteran. And I also know that you are really a senior expert. You are full of enthusiasm in your own work. So from the perspective of a CNTech, in terms of promoting green supply chain development, what are the best practices you'd like to share with us? Okay, thank you, Mr. Yu. Once again, this is a great opportunity for me to attend this forum. This forum has been held for a dozen of years. Yeah, right. CNTech has always been one of the supporting organizations over the past 13 years. CNTech has always been working with us in this forum. Yes, right. As the global supply chain is evolving, the supply chain is also developing in China. As you said earlier, this organization, my organization, plays our own role in green supply chain. In my opinion, this role is a role of linkage. The businesses, organizations, and stakeholders, the upstream and the downstream suppliers, in terms of green supply chains, we play the role as a linkage, as a bridge. We know that you are all very busy with doing business as an enterprise. Well, in terms of being green and sustainable, it is a very important overarching topic over the head of businesses. And you need to integrate it into your own business operation. Our role as the industrial organization is to help businesses to integrate tangibly the concept of sustainability in the supply chain development. Our role is just like a bridge, like a connection. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate your analog as the bridge. Well, as a bridge, what actions do you take? What are the experiences you would like to share with us? You're right. In the past, we focused a lot on standards. We worked very hard to develop standards. For example, the management system standard or information disclosure standard. Businesses, the upstream and the downstream of supply chain can use those standards to develop a sustainable and a green supply chain. However, in this process, we encountered an issue that is who should be there to develop those standards. Standards should be the consensus, right? This consensus should be reached between upstream and downstream. However, in our past practices, we usually saw that in formulating the standards, the role of different parties was different. Some parties played a dominant role. So our concept is the same, our direction is the same. However, how should we achieve the direction? The methods, the approaches we use might be different. Therefore, to reach consensus, just like the lawyer just now talked about the topic of CBAM. To reduce carbon is a common consensus, but how to reduce? Should we use carbon tariff? Can we reach agreement on this? Am I willing to pay this tariff? And this leakage should really be covered by me or not? Should we really use taxation as an instrument? It's just like you pay for your own crime. So probably maybe we don't reach agreement on these approaches and tools yet. So I think to promote the consensus, carbon is a very important channel. And how to express this channel, products play a major role. China is the largest textile producer and processor in the world. It's also the biggest consumer country in the world as well. As the biggest consumer country in the world, how can we offer the most affordable products for the whole world? That is one topic. However, in terms of carbon emission reduction, how should we reach agreement? How can we distribute the benefits between upstream and downstream? We need to find the channel of achieving each of our own values. Only in this way can we really achieve sustainable development. Only in this way can we achieve sustainability. So to achieve the consensus, how can we use carbon as an instrument to guide everybody? Because if we only talk about concepts, if we only talk about the standards, probably in the future, they will just become superficial. In order to achieve those standards, we just formulate those standards, but nobody abides by them. That will be superficial. So they shall not become a hindrance. We need to establish better channels.
So how to measure its carbon footprint alongside the upstream and downstream of the supply chain, and how to achieve traceability alongside the supply chain. And based on this, to further cut carbon so that at the production and the consumption, and there will be consensus. So from the supply chain to the value chain, there will be consensus achieved. This is the method we adopt. So avoid just talking about standards, but we adopt such a way so that's to form a consensus alongside the upstream and downstream, so that the downstream consumer and are willing to pay for these green products. So this is something that we are doing right now. Let's give a big hand to our panelists. Thank you very much. I think you talked about how to shift from standards-centered to product-centered, and to combine that with carbon, so that from a business logic to solve this issue. I think that is very enlightening. And also it is centering around low carbon and sustainability to realize product competitiveness. Actually, within a very short period of time, 2 years, for 20 local brands, 58 products, we have achieved the measurement of the whole supply chain carbon footprint. It is related to 12 different kinds of materials, so that we can have this whole value chain. In the beginning, it was based on the discussion of carbon tariff, because we supply all around the world. So maybe there will be this non-tariff trade barrier. Maybe we would encounter such difficulties. We were really worried. It was mainly targeting overseas supply chain, but now these domestic producers, they are very proactive. Now we have a unified market, so that is more easy to implement such program. So that gives us confidence. So for Chinese companies, we're not lagging behind, or we're not having the philosophy, but more importantly, we should give them an effective channel or tools or a platform. Very good. Thank you. In the interest of time, maybe we can have a deeper discussion from offline. Following your thoughts, the next question is to Jeanette. Just now, Mr. Hu mentioned between low carbon and business logic. We've seen that the action is really attaching great importance to sustainability, especially in Europe. There are these legislations on transparency or corporate sustainability, due diligence, strict laws on supply chain. They are all related to sustainability. So to implement these legislation or laws and to face up to the challenge of climate. And about your company's development strategy, are they balanced or coordinated? This question is to Ms. Janet.
Thank you. Yes, as we are in 10 countries in Europe, it's sometimes quite challenging, I must say, because there are local legislations, country legislations on, for example, if I take waste management, France has different logos to use than, for example, Italy. So that also has consequences for our packaging, because we need to put all these logos on our packaging, of course, as we still want one for all countries. And on the other hand, we have, of course, our target in packaging reduction. So we want to reduce the packaging, but can we still put all the logos on one packaging? So there we need to think about as a company to maybe split our collection into the company comply to all the local legislations. And what we also would like for is unification in Europe in legislation in these things like packaging, waste reduction, but also in all the different legislations, as you saw in my slide, that every country is now making an own interpretation of European legislation. So yeah, it's sometimes quite challenging, but yeah, we love to face the challenge as action and also try to keep things simple, because simplicity would help us a lot in also, yeah, trading in all these different countries as we are still growing. It's challenging, yes, I can agree with that. We still strive for unification, and we also still strive to have one product for all countries. So it would be also easier for our suppliers, for example, to make these articles. On the other hand, we are, of course, looking also in what can we do ourselves as action. We finished scope 1 and scope 2, with looking at our own energy reduction, looking at what can we do with our trucks driving through Europe, how can we make them more efficient, how can we there use other fuel, for example, and also look at what can we do in purchasing energy, like putting the solar panels on our distribution center roofs in all the countries, so we can save energy and make it ourselves and use it also ourselves. So yeah, we still look for creative solutions in every single country we are in Europe.
Okay, thank you. 谢谢
Thank you, Madam Jeanette, for your sharing. And due to the limit of time, let's move on to the next question. We have one panelist from HKPC, Mr. Du Yonghai. He is the General Manager of the Green Living and the Innovation Division of HKPC. So Mr. Du, for HKPC, I think we can tell from his name, it is to promote business development. And as to the department you are working with, it is for green living and innovation. So my question to you is, you and your organization, while providing low carbon solutions, what kind of low carbon solutions do you have for your customers? Thank you, Mr. Yu, and thank you, Linda. I'm sorry that I came a little bit late because I was kept by another activity. HKPC is actually a public department or organization. Well, it is a lot like government agencies in China. We report to Hong Kong Innovation and the Industrial Bureau. So innovation and industrial are the key words. But through technological and service innovation, we provide services to manufacturers and to improve their efficiency. So HKPC, our task is to go through technology innovation and service innovation. So coming back to Mr. Yu's question, to support the companies, actually there are three aspects. For the development of the company, of course, it needs capital. HKPC is undertaking several evaluation projects for the government, especially for small and medium-sized companies to provide capital support. The second is technology support, because we are based on applied R&D. So through providing this advanced technology to the companies, including environmental protection technology or technology related to green and innovation, and to provide such services to the companies. Thirdly, after getting access to capital and technology, one important thing is the human being is people. So what about the people? We also help to empower the people and to improve, provide personnel training for the companies. As to carbon reduction, I would say, and for the past, we have a very close connection with amfori, including with Grace and Yolanda. We have done many activities. That is in line with our philosophy. One is talking about carbon reduction of the companies. We stress a top-down structure and with full participation, because for carbon reduction, first of all, you need a top-level commitment. The leadership needs to have the resolve to reduce carbon at a different levels and to see what are the opportunities. So hopefully, with the leadership of commitment, and then we need full participation. We hope that we can initiate the companies to make a greater commitments and also to provide the capacity building. Second of all, through technology innovation, carbon reduction is the terminal or end carbon reduction. We hope that we can reduce the materials waste and improve productivity, and also to achieve energy saving. So the targets are multiple. For example, by using a high pressure food processing technology and without adding chemicals, it can prolong the shelf life of juice from 3 days to 10 days, and it can help reduce carbon emission by 30%. So this is a very good example of carbon reduction by technology innovation. And thirdly is to cut reduction from the source. Take, for instance, for HKPC in Geneva, we have received an award that is by changing the formula of the products, so that is carbon emission can be reduced by 30% from source. So for participation, top-down technological innovation and carbon reduction from the source, we can help companies to achieve the major target of carbon reduction. So that's to achieve the big plan of carbon neutrality and carbon emission peaking. That's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Du, for your sharing. I believe that HKPC is stressing from technology and technology empowerment to bring changes. because to achieve carbon neutrality and carbon peaking, we believe that we attach great importance to the power of technology and also the power of digitalization. Thank you. Next panelist is from CESA. In the welcoming speech section, Shi has also talked about the policies of MIIT and the relevant practices, especially the green supply case study. Maybe Mr. He, you can share with us in terms of electronics industry and what are the practices or experience that you can share with us. Thank you very much for the invitation from Mr. Yu, and I'm very happy to attend the China-European CSR Roundtable Forum. I have to say that CESA has been a long partner to this forum, and I myself, this is my second time to this forum. And last December, I attended this forum from online, and I have met Mr. from HKPC. Just now, our Mr. Shi and Madam Linda have mentioned, the electronics industry is also a very important practitioner of carbon reduction, and we are also a pioneer. We have done a lot of work, and a lot of the work we cooperated with China Sustainability Tribune and Golden Bee. Because of the limited time, I will not go into details. But today, I want to share with you two opinions. As you can see, everyone has 5 fingers. I think in the Chinese environment, for CESA, we have 5 roles to play, just like 5 fingers. First of all, is to be a government agency, well, because our unique management system. This is a very important point. Secondly, the standards. Just now, our leader from CNTAC has also mentioned. Last year, we had this guideline on standardization development. And we believe that as a standardization from traditional trade and technology, it needs to spread out to the whole Chinese society. I think in terms of CSR, sustainability or green industry, this is a new challenge, but also a new opportunity. This is about standards. Third is industry promotion. For electronics industries, actually, we have 2 major electronics. One is to produce this hard products, TV, mobile phone. This is the electronics manufacturing industry. And second is what we call software and information service industry. So different kinds of apps, including industrial apps, software.
As a social organization, we will continue to push forward them. Fourthly, we empower enterprises. Just now, the speaker from CNTech also said that to us, find the typical enterprises, how to help them to understand their footprint, how to help them to reduce emission, how to make their supply chain greener. So in this regard, from 2010, we have been working with some financial institutions and some partners, including Golden Bee. We have been promoting the Green Supply Chain Vanguard action and Green Supply Chain Golden Seed action. In those programs, we focus on those specific management level professionals in supply chain management. We work with them and we help them to better understand how to reduce emission. Last but not least, together with the co-organizers of our event today, we believe that amfori and other international organizations, we need to strengthen collaborations and interactions. Like Mr. Yu said earlier, what should be the next step? In my opinion, in the next step, we need to focus on two aspects. Firstly, for example, BEPI 2.0 was launched by amfori. In my opinion, just like a rose launched by the European Union not long ago, this 2.0 version of BEPI is useful for global trade. So we should think about whether we can have a better participation in the 2.0 here in China so that we can come up with a product which satisfies everybody. Talking about carbon tariff, tariff is a double-edged sword. So that can also be an interesting topic of collaboration and cooperation. In China, there is a very potential topic and sector that is the software service industry or the platform businesses. Douyin, for example, it's one of such companies in China, TikTok, and so on and so forth. Some experts once said that when we click the mouse in computer, all the energy we consumed add up together can boil a kettle of water. So imagine how big energy it is. How much potential do we have in our collaboration? So with that, I would like to conclude my discussions. Thank you, Secretary General, very much. I'm not very good at controlling the time. With that, I would like to wrap up this panel discussion. I would like to ask our two panelists to go back to your seats. So now we will come to the conclusion part of our event today. So honorable leaders. Honorable leaders, honorable guests, honorable participants from online, I would like to spend 3 to 5 minutes to summarize our event today. This is a traditional part of the agenda of a Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum. Every time our perspectives and our focus might be different, but our format is the same. Through our discussions today, I have 3 strong feelings. The first one is that indeed, to cope with the global climate crisis, there is going to be a huge change. I have felt this very strongly from your speeches. Our Secretary General once mentioned that to achieve carbon peak and neutrality will be a fundamental and a systematic social and economic transformation. In our discussion today, we're talking about the supply chain topic. We feel about this very strongly in our discussion. We need to join hands to cope with climate change. We need to build low carbon development pattern. In this process, there will occur new policies, new rules, new standards, and new processes. All of those new stuff means a new revolution. The new policies and the new rules are not only a force to push the industry in the direction of sustainability, they are very important tools. They are just like the compass. However, at the same time, the different stakeholders will also be impacted differently. Probably those leading stakeholders can catch up with the trends of the times very quickly. While for others who do not have a profound understanding of low carbon or their capacity is not sufficient, probably will lag behind. However, our development should be common development. purely through low carbon to achieve cannibalism is not appropriate. That is why we need to develop this green supply chain. So that is my first strong feeling. This change, this profound change that is going to happen, and the necessity to collaborate along the green supply chain. In particular, we have the same aspiration, we have the same vision. However, we also have differences. So that is my first point. So now I would like to ask our partner, one of the organizers of this event, from MIIT, President of MIIT, Madam Linda. I would like to invite her to say a few words to conclude our event today. The floor is yours, Madam Linda, please.
Thank you very much. And I have listened with interest. And let me first say with kudos to everyone, the organizers, the team behind the event, the speakers, but also I would say many of the supporters in bringing together, I would say, everyone on this important topic. And I can't mention everyone, but of course, Mr. Yu, I think we need to thank you for hosting this with us, but also, thank you to many of our supporters, such as the CNTAC, CSR, and HKPC. And there's a few things I want to say here. I think what we have heard here is all about, sharing, and we need to share. We need to share insights. We need to share solutions. We need to share best practices, because that's the way collaboratively that we will be able to move forward. We have heard quite frequently the relevance of partnerships, and I think that's also true. We can only do that again here in partnerships, in working together on finding solutions or identifying the issues. We've also heard how relevant it is that we try to harmonize legislation and policies. That's not easy, but that would make life of business so much easier. And I think you also heard, and I think that's maybe the most important thing here, actions are being taken. And that's what it's all about. Words do matter, but actions matter even more. And I think we've seen a lot of practical examples in this conference here about actions being taken and also about clear targets being set. So I really thank you all, because only when we really embark all together on sustainable trade, on sustainable supply chain, then we can have sustainable businesses all together to the benefit of people and planet. So thank you all. It was a pleasure being with you. Hopefully next time in person, but let's see how COVID-19 is going to, positively, hopefully surprise us here. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Madam Linda, very much. Linda should have made the conclusion remark ahead of me. However, every time when I'm going to deliver a conclusion speech, I'm very nervous. When I'm nervous, I forget that. I'm sorry. Well, now I will continue with my conclusion remarks. My second feeling is that actually this morning here, we had another forum, the 5th Enterprise Low Carbon Green Development in the context of carbon neutrality. In that forum, we focused specifically on the green development of businesses. One of the experts shared with us a table. This table is about carbon system development by enterprises. There are 6 aspects, including organization, development, planning, strategy, and processes, and eventually the collaboration. In collaboration, there is one slide containing supply chain, and we find this slide is very busy, because when we conduct accounting, we have scope 1, scope 2, and when it comes to scope 3, it is a very complicated system. When it comes to supply chain, it's always very complicated. When we promote carbon neutrality without collaboration and a synchronization of the supply chain, it's going to be very difficult. So it shows the complexity of a supply chain. It also shows the necessity to empower the supply chain. Because of those changes, because of this fundamental change, we need to empower the supply chain. To empower supply chain, I would like to express 3 opinions. Firstly, we need a large group of enterprises. The enterprises along the supply chain have different roles, have different capacities. We need to have a number of leading companies to establish partnerships. We need them to lead the development of green supply chains. Today in our forum, we have speakers from Action, from Jingdong, from Zhengtai. They've shared with us very good practices. In the process of green supply chain development, they have played their own dual role to lead the supply chains. Secondly, I think we need to focus on two major aspects. The first one is the concept of a circular economy. This concept should be integrated into green supply chain. Secondly, digitalization should also play its role in promoting green supply chains. The third opinion I want to express is that we have numerous work to do. Different organizations should also play their part. For green supply chains development, to empower green supply chains, we need various types of resources. The first type of resources is to help the supply chain companies to understand the policies, standards, and rules. This time, we've invited specifically a speaker from a law firm which has participated in this process. They help us to better understand those rules and policies. Secondly, we should have role models and demonstration roles. For example, Hong Kong PC can offer creative technology support. And also, we have heard about the very important example illustrated by CSR of demonstration of green supply chains. Amfori BPI is a very important tool. So this is the third aspect. Such tools are very critical. The standards of the electronic industry, the standards of the textile industry are also playing a very critical role. And the fourth type of resource, in my opinion, is to link the different participants of the supply chain through specific products. The different links of the supply chains are connected together. So those are my observations I'd like to share with you. I'd like to represent the organizers, China Sustainability Tribune and amfori, as well as the supporting organizations, Tech and CSR, as well as Hong Kong PC. I would like to thank all of you for your support for the 26th Sino-European CSR Roundtable. Specifically, on their behalf, I would like to thank our speakers today. Thanks to your sharing, we are able to better understand green supply chains. Thank you for your efforts to empower low-carbon supply chains. Thank you. With that, we would like to wrap up the 26th Sino-European CSR Roundtable Forum. We look forward to the next one in December. Thank you. I would like to ask our offline guests and online guests to take a group photo together.